18. Argument to moderation, Argumentum Ad Temperantiam. Hello and welcome back. Today, we're discussing the argument to moderation fallacy, also known as Argumentum Ad Temperantiam, or the fallacy of the middle ground. This fallacy assumes that the middle point between two opposing positions is always the correct or most reasonable one, regardless of evidence or context. The argument to moderation fallacy occurs when someone claims that compromise, or finding a middle ground between two extremes, is inherently the best solution. While compromise can sometimes be practical, this fallacy ignores the possibility that one side might be entirely correct or that the middle position might still be flawed. Example: one side says the Earth is flat, the other says it's round. The truth must be somewhere in between. It's probably shaped like a dome. This argument assumes that both sides have valid points, ignoring the overwhelming scientific evidence that the Earth is round. Compromising between a fact and a falsehood doesn't lead to a reasonable conclusion. Comparison: argument to moderation versus false balance. While both fallacies deal with perceived fairness, their focus differs. Argument to moderation claims the truth lies in the middle of two extremes. Example: if one person says we need zero taxes and another says we need 50% taxes, the fair rate must be 25%. False balance gives equal weight to two sides regardless of their merit. Example: scientists say vaccines are effective, but some people disagree. Both views are equally valid. The argument to moderation assumes compromise is correct, while false balance treats unequal arguments as equally valid. Another example: one person says climate change is a hoax, and another says it's a global crisis. The truth must be that it's only a minor issue. This fallacy ignores overwhelming evidence supporting the severity of climate change, assuming that the middle position is inherently more reasonable without addressing the actual data. Why it's misleading. The argument to moderation fallacy oversimplifies complex issues and assumes that compromise is inherently rational. However, truth isn't determined by averaging extremes. It's found through evidence and logical reasoning. Sometimes, one side is entirely correct, and the middle ground can be just as wrong as an extreme position. How to avoid argument to moderation. 1. Evaluate evidence. Base conclusions on facts and logic, not on a desire to compromise. 2. Avoid false compromises. Question whether a middle position is genuinely supported by evidence or is simply a shortcut to avoid conflict. 3. Acknowledge asymmetry. Recognize when one side has stronger evidence or arguments than the other. Conclusion: the argument to moderation fallacy may seem reasonable at first, but it often oversimplifies or misrepresents the truth. By focusing on evidence and evaluating arguments on their merits, we can avoid the trap of assuming the middle ground is always the best solution.